San Francisco, good evening. I am Rufus Q. Blasenstein reporting the news. The day is April 27th, 1953, and I once again remind you that this broadcast is in limited release. For the sake of our community and your personal safety, do not share this with anyone other than known homosexuals or allies. I start this evening by bringing to you some breaking news from Washington, D.C. It is becoming more apparent day in and day out that our world is to become just that much smaller. It would seem that our president, Dwight D. Eisenhower, has taken a page out of Senator Joseph McCarthy's book. What we have come to call the Red Scare seems to be changing its colors, for now we live in an era of lavender. It is not just communism that our government fears, but homosexuality as well. Today, President Eisenhower signed Executive Order 10450, which will effectively ban all homosexuals and those suspected of homosexuality from working within the federal government. We have long known that we have few allies in the government, if any at all, which is why this executive order comes at no surprise to the homosexual who pays attention. The presence of homosexuals has long been questioned, mistrusted, and disliked in our modern society. Since the 19th century civil service regulations instructed the bureaucracy to deny examinations and refuse appointments to eligible applicants and to fire employees from their jobs for conduct unbecoming. Records indicate that several federal employees, including poet Walt Whitman, have been dismissed for being homosexual. Whitman had been fired for immoral behavior from a clerical position at the Interior Department in 1863, and Henry Gerber, founder of the gay political organization Society for Human Rights, had been dismissed from the Postal Service in 1925 for conduct unbecoming of a postal worker. Now things, it would seem, have descended into a spot lower than ever. Senator McCarthy has insisted to the press that the homosexual community has long been aiding communism. In June of 1950, Republican Senators Kenneth Spicer Weary and Joseph Lister Hill, with McCarthy's support, formed a subcommittee to study the effects of the Truman administration's employment policy concerning homosexuals. Expert testimony gave the senators enough evidence to argue that, quote, moral perverts are bad national security risks because of their susceptibility to blackmail and threat of exposure. President Eisenhower played a large role in fighting the Second World War. Serving as Supreme Commander of the Allied Expeditionary Forces in Europe, Eisenhower fought to secure the liberty and freedom of American citizens. Let's listen to what he had to say to our troops back in 1944.
Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force, you are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you. You will bring about the destruction of the German war machine, the elimination of Nazi tyranny over the oppressed peoples of Europe, and security for ourselves in a free world. Your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened. He will fight savagely. The tide has turned. The free men of the world are marching together to victory.
Well, Mr. President, if I could, I would want to state that the eyes of the world are on you. You talk about oppressed people in Europe, but what of the communities that are oppressed in your own country, years after the Second World War? I assure you that, yes, free men of the world are marching together to victory. Our community still strives to seek that security for ourselves in a free world. Hopes and prayers of these liberty-loving homosexuals are with you, Mr. President. I would like to make it clear that this new executive order will not only make it much harder to find and hold federal work for homosexuals, but will no doubt affect civilian government contractors. This can and almost certainly will lead to the dismissal or forced resignation of thousands upon thousands of homosexual workers. The order is set to go into effect on May 27th of this year. In other news, it would seem that a new business is set to be opened this year called City Lights Bookstore. Their specialty? World literature and progressive politics. They aim to bring the whole world right to San Francisco, a once thought impossible task. It looks like San Francisco will be gaining a new friend to the gay world. With such variety in literature available, from poetry to novels to travelogues, this store will have it all. and most importantly, they aim to be an inclusive site for all. This bookstore may just change the way we read and become a haven for homosexuals and book lovers alike. And for our final story of the evening, I bring you more good news. It would seem that our friends down in Los Angeles will be sending a gift our way. The Mattachine Society, which opened just 3 years ago in 1950, is looking to relocate its headquarters to San Francisco in the coming years. The Mattachine Society was founded to promote and advocate for the homosexual community with an end goal of seeking the legalization of homosexuality. The Foundation's original statement of purpose, which was drawn up in 1951, included 3 organizational goals: to unify homosexuals as a group with the dominant culture, to educate both homosexuals and heterosexuals because the total of information available on the subject of homosexuality is woefully meager and utterly inconclusive, and to lead forward into the realm of political action. Essential to these 3 goals was the inclusion of the topic homosexuality, as well as homosexuals themselves in the public sphere, where groups are united, educated, and politicized. They were perhaps the first and one of the only groups advocating for such. Let's hope that in these trying times for our community, they continue their valiant efforts and relocate to our home. Well, that is the news of the day, folks. Let us all hope for a brighter tomorrow. I'm Rufus Q. Blasenstein, signing off.